Hey, I'm your host, Lindsay Lyman. I've spent the past 11 years at one of the largest tech companies in the world. My goal is to be the EQ leader for those working in high IQ tech settings. Because without solutions to deal with the constant reorgs, bad managers, and that hum of anxiety, you're one escalation away from losing it. But there's an easier way, and I can show you how. Let's go. Hey friends, how you holding up? It's been a rough week. A lot of my friends at Amazon have been dealing with the stress of layoffs. Some were impacted, many were not. It's one of those times where I'm reminded it's actually a good thing to not feel good through this. This is where I say, the goal is not to be happy all the time, or else you got to be happy when people get laid off. And if you're anything like most of us, that doesn't feel good. We want to have a little empathy and feel bad and be worried and partly relieved if it wasn't impacting us. So it's okay to not be okay. Let's just remember that, y'all. Today, I want to talk about the importance of a story. And I actually kind of think this is fitting in terms of the story you're telling yourself about your company, about your career. If you were laid off, the story you're telling yourself about that. I'm not here to tell you which story is right or wrong, but what I hope you walk away from this episode is realizing the story you tell yourself is really important and really impactful, because remember, the thoughts we have are what create how we feel about things. So if the story you're telling is all the doom and gloom and crap and hard parts, of course, every time you think about that thing, it's going to feel really hard. Again, as I started out saying, I'm not here to sell happiness. I'm not here to say we should feel good about everything. But you have a choice as to what story you want to continue to tell yourself about things that happen in life. So I think the best way I can really teach this is through real life example. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to tell you a story of what happened to me over the holiday Christmas break. Okay. So I'm going to start. I'm going to tell you story A, and I'm going to tell it to you as story B. Both are true. So here's story A. It's Christmas Eve, and I'm just feeling a little bit off. I'm divorced. I love Christmas, and it's not going to be at my house this year. Sharing kids is a little bit tricky, especially during the holidays. So my husband has the kids for Christmas, and we are going to be doing Christmas Eve and Christmas together as a family at his house. I'm also hosting Christmas dinner. So it's Christmas Eve, midday. I'm trying to get ready for Christmas dinner, pack up a few things, get stuff ready before I leave and head over to my ex-husband's house to spend the evening with my kids. I'm late getting out the door. My kids are annoyed. My ex-husband is annoyed. I'm kind of stressed trying to get things going. And as I'm getting ready to leave, I hear something. I had turned on the laundry. So sometimes it's normal for me to hear water as it runs through the cycle. And I could hear water, but this was not your normal washing machine water sounds. So I notice it's coming from my basement. So I go downstairs, and as I'm walking down the stairs, I walk down the hall and the carpet is wet. And the sound is getting louder and louder. I turn on the lights in my craft room, and there is water pouring out of all of the light fixtures all over my craft room. It is flooding. I stand there in panic. I don't know what to do. My brain was in such panic. I just really couldn't even think, what's the first thing to do? Who do I call? I kind of went into this little bit of shock of this is not happening. This is not real. All of a sudden I hear the doorbell ring. And I remember my brother had mentioned he was stopping by to drop off some gifts for my kids. So I run upstairs, open the door, don't even say anything. I just say, come in and help. We go downstairs, and my brother and his partner see exactly what is going on. And they start asking me all these questions. I can't even think. I'm like, I don't know. My brother's like, where's the main water shut off? I'm like, I don't know. I do know where it is. But in the moment, I couldn't think about it. I'm like, I don't know. We go and looking in the utility closet. I can't find it in there. And I'm like, oh, it's out by the street. The guys are always telling me if ever I need to shut off the water, it's here. It's weird and not normal. My brother's partner's asking me where I can turn off the power. Again, I can't think. I'm like, it's in the garage. It's in the garage. The water's just pouring. They keep asking me these questions. Then I start to feel dumb. I know I can't think, but I just am kind of in this overall panic as water continues to pour all over my craft supplies. I was so mad. I was like, this is the one room that has the most stuff in it. And while it's not important, I have so many just little trinkets and things that I just know are getting ruined. Through a handful of adventures of us digging out in the snow, digging in the neighbor's yard, trying lots of different things, we're able to get the power off and the water off. In the interim, my ex-husband comes over to help with the kids, and the kids are there wanting to know what's going on. I kind of can't really deal with them. They kind of start acting their age, but they're entertaining themselves upstairs. So we get the water off, we get the power off, and so we've stopped the water. It's still slowly leaking through the light fixtures, but it has definitely decreased at this point. But by now, we have traipsed in and out of this room. That water is now not only in the craft room, but in the hallway and starting to go up the stairs. We realize we need to clear everything out of the room, so I run upstairs to where I was going to be hosting Christmas dinner, take down all of the table settings, move everything that I can to the sides, and we start taking all of my craft supplies out of the basement up into the dining room. I had just freshly mopped these floors, by the way. And now the dog is starting to get into everything. So the basement's dark. We can't see anything. And we're trying to move boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. It is wet. It's now starting to smell. Remember, this is Christmas Eve. I first noticed this, I want to say it was probably around 3:30. Most stores on Christmas Eve in the US close around 5 p.m. So it's now starting to become about that time that stores close. So my brother runs out to get fans and dehumidifiers and some things to help dry out the basement. In the interim, we also had some other people come over and help that were trying to help us remove the water, get the carpet out, clean everything up. Before I know it, one of my kids starts throwing up. She is now sick and crying in bed and wanting my help. My parents come over because, again, they care and they want to help, but knowing that they're older and a little more frail, they are not much help and start to be in the way. My mom, in her loving way, tries to start cracking jokes, and I am just not in the mood, and I snap and am very rude to my mom. Now, not only do I have a pitch dark basement that's wet, but now there is mud and wetness all over the basement, up the stairs, and all over my house as things are being brought into the dining room. We get it all out. Our friends that came over help pull up the carpet padding. We bring it upstairs, put it outside. And all the while, I am feeling horrible that I'm not spending as much time as I should with my child that's sick, that my friends and family are spending Christmas Eve cleaning out craft supplies in my basement, which I know logically are not important. Oh, and did I mention, as my brother was planning on just stopping by and dropping something off with his partner, it was his partner's birthday. So now I find out that they're missing birthday dinner plans. I feel so horrible, and I'm stressed about what all is going to need to happen now that my basement has been flooded. I call a friend of mine who's out of town, and I have myself a good little cry. We get everything out. I say thanks to everyone. And now I dread and wait for the insurance office to open up after the holidays, knowing that here I am needing to file another insurance claim after my friends and family kindly told me since this is the second claim in a year, most likely my insurance is going to drop me. By this point, it's so late into the night, we don't have time to make the Christmas dinner my ex-husband had planned. So instead, we have a very fancy gourmet meal of mac and cheese and hot dogs. We do our Christmas Eve adventures. I go home alone and exhausted in my broken, wet house. That's story A. True story, my friends. It was an adventure. But how do you feel after hearing that? I don't know about you, but I am like sad and depressed and kind of want to go eat a maple bar. Here's that same story, again, equally as true, just told in a different way. It's Christmas Eve. Things feel a little off, but I am one of the lucky few that I'm able to have an amicable divorce where my husband and I, we get along and we care enough about our kids that we celebrate holidays together. Sometimes we do it at my house. This year it's at his, because the first year apart, it was at my house because he knew how important Christmas is to me. I'm a little anxious and unsure, but I am so grateful I get to be with my kids during the holiday, even though it's technically my ex-husband's holiday with them. I have so many things to do. I'm feeling a bit stressed because I know there's a certain way I want everything in my head to go. I am hosting Christmas dinner and I love doing this. Not only is it a great excuse for me to clean up the house and do some of those chores I've been putting off, but I love having people come into my home and share my home with them and connect and get to know them better. As I'm getting ready to leave, I hear something and I realize it's water. This is not the water sound I am very familiar with coming from the laundry. This is something else. I go downstairs, and as I get down the stairs and around the corner, I notice the hall is wet. My craft room is flooding. I turn on the lights and water is pouring down out of the light fixtures. But I can tell I have caught it right as it has started. There's a lot of water and it's getting wet quickly, but it has not left the craft room and part of the hallway yet. In fact, it's not even all the way flooded. There's still a lot of area. I can see the carpet is still dry. Water's pouring through the fixtures, and I am in a little bit of a panic. What do I do? Who do I call? Again, I'm in a state of shock thinking like this is not really happening. The doorbell rings and I remember it's my brother. I run upstairs without saying anything and say, please come down and help. My brother and his partner are very quick to respond. They're able to help me get the water shut off. We get the power turned off and everyone is safe. The water has slowed down. I keep telling them, I'm sorry I'm not thinking straight. I know you keep asking me questions, and they keep assuring me it's okay. My ex-husband and my kids had come over during all of this to help as well. My kids are upstairs. They're arguing a little bit, but they're entertaining themselves and they're safe and fine. My ex-husband just happens to know someone that lives nearby who owns commercial water removal equipment. Not only this, but he was around with his two sons with nothing to do because their Christmas Eve plans had been canceled because one of their other sons that was coming into town, his flight had been canceled. And so they weren't really doing much and they were happy to come over and help. They came over and they knew exactly what to do. They helped us get everything moved out. They were able to use their equipment to soak up all of the water. They safely removed the carpet without needing to cut into it. They took out all of the sopping wet carpet padding and got it outside of my house. My brother had the good sense to run off and get fans and dehumidifiers before the stores closed. This is when my daughter started to throw up. Now, normally she makes a pretty big mess, but thankfully she had made it into the bathroom and didn't make a big mess. I was able to sit with her for a little bit because I knew others were there helping with the mess. My parents came over to help because they love me and live close by and they can. And unfortunately, I was pretty rude to my mom, but my sister, who also lives by, stepped in and helped. And she came and talked to my mom and brought her to her house so that my mom didn't have to feel bad by herself. This sister also offered to host Christmas dinner, knowing that that was no longer an option as my house was a complete disaster. I was able to call a friend of mine who I really trust and value and talk to them and tell them what was going on. And they were so kind and empathetic and just let me sit on the phone and have a good little cry. They did a great job of listening and helping me feel seen and heard without trying to make me feel better. And in fact, they checked in on me multiple times that night and for the next couple of weeks. I also have some amazing friends that live close by, and I was able to call one of them, even though it was Christmas Eve, even though this friend is a busy mom. that has a full schedule and guests over, but she so kindly offered to come and take the dog for me for a few days so that I didn't have to worry about the dog getting out as people were coming and going from the house or getting into the mess or getting sick. My ex-husband was also able to fix the broken water pipe because he's worked in construction and he's handy and he knew the materials to go out and buy. We were able to find where the pipe had burst and he could fix the pipe that night. This was such a relief to me because without that, I was not going to be able to have running water, which means I couldn't brush my teeth. I couldn't flush the toilets. I couldn't take a shower. And remember, this happened on Christmas Eve. And so things were not going to be open for a few days. So if I wasn't able to get the water turned back on, I was probably going to need to find other living arrangements. Thankfully, I have multiple other choices, but I really wanted to be able to stay in my own house. I also really lucked out because I heard the water and was able to catch this so early on that the water was really contained to the craft room and the hall. It didn't get into any of the other rooms in the basement and ruin anything. It didn't ruin the couches and the TV room and all of my kids' toys that are down there or my daughter's room. It really was just this one room and it caused very minimal damage to the things that were in the room. My friends that know me well know that I love to craft, and as I've mentioned before, what I mainly make are felt flowers. So I have bolts and bolts, dozens and dozens of bolts of very nice wool blend felt fabric. And every single person that found out about what happened, one of their first questions was, "Oh no, did all of your felt get ruined?" And luckily, none of it was because I didn't keep any of it on the ground. And because of where the water was falling out of the ceiling, none of my felt was damaged. We were able to get everything out. We turned on the fans. We turned on a dehumidifier. And I still was able to make it to spend Christmas Eve with my family at my ex-husband's house. The kids had a great time. They were so excited for Santa. We read Luke 2 and talked about the true meaning of Christmas. My kids opened one present as they do every Christmas Eve. And to them, it was another magical Christmas Eve. I went to bed exhausted and safe and dry and warm in my own house with running water. Christmas moved forward as normal. While in the moment, it was not fun and there's a lot of work still to be done, it's one to remember. What I remember most about that Christmas Eve is how many things worked out in my favor, of how supported I am, of how many friends and family members I have that love me and support me near and far. So I hope what you see from these two different stories, both things are true. By default, if I don't choose the story I want to tell myself about Christmas Eve 2022, my brain will catastrophize and tell the horrible, dramatic story. But the story you tell yourself is so important to pay attention to because it is going to derive how you feel. When I look back at Christmas 2022, I am going to feel that tinge of stress and panic and overwhelm that I felt. But the bigger emotion, the bigger feeling I'm going to feel is one of love, is one of support, is one of abundance, the one of bless, the one of safety, the one where I get to continue to believe things are working out in my favor. That's what feels better and more true to me. And when I feel that way, I'm able to show up and help and empathize and love and give to others because I am not stuck in my own drama, feeling bad for myself and stressed and overwhelmed. So what I offer to you to do this week is write down your story. Don't tell the one that you think you should tell. Like, be honest. Get it out of your head on paper, type it up. What's the story you tell yourself about your career, about your job, or about your company, or about your relationship with your manager, or about your salary, or about your title, or about your scope of influence? Whatever it is, that you are really feeling stuck in, write down your story. Again, be honest and true. Okay? We got to start with this is the story we're telling ourselves. And then offer to your brain to look at what's another version of that story that's also true that feels more empowering. I promise you, both stories are available to you. But if you don't make a conscious effort to manage your brain and direct your thoughts and choose them on purpose, your brain will continue to tell you the doom and gloom story. Stop living on autopilot. Stop living by default thinking and choose the story you want to think on purpose. All right, my friends, you're amazing. We made it through this week. I know it was a hard one for many of you. I want you to know I believe in you. You're amazing. You got this. Talk soon. If you listen to this podcast and feel heard and seen for the first time in a while, this is just the beginning. I offer a limited number of free coaching calls. On this call, we'll talk about what's going on, and you'll leave with specific ways to start feeling better today. So listen to that inner pull and let's chat. Grab some time on my calendar before I'm booked up. To schedule a call, click the link in the show notes or go to lindsaylymancoaching.com/chat and sign up. You got this.